Hello! So, today we are going to be discussing and talking and reviewing a Phantom Menace. Episode 1 of the Star Wars movies. Look, every Christmas period, I go and rewatch all of the Star Wars movies. From Episode 1 to Episode 9, including Solo and also Rogue One. So, I'm adding them into this whole rewatch. So, I thought, why not bring you guys along? Let's have a discussion. Let's talk about these movies. Let's really go into depth and really talk about how we feel about these movies. Some of them are a bit controversial, so I'm very intrigued to hear other people's opinions on these Star Wars movies because it is very polarizing, especially when we get to the sequel trilogy, and we're going to start with the prequel trilogy. So I think the original trilogy, I think we're all pretty much going to have the same thoughts roughly around about that for those movies, but it's going to be the prequels and the sequels that are going to be the interesting ones. So look, most of us would start with 4, 5 and 6 like we normally do. That's how I rewatch it. That's how most of us watch it. Like, that's just how it was. But I thought, look, these movies have been out for decades. We've all seen them. Majority of us have. If you guys haven't, I don't know what rock you've been living under. So I thought we're just going to start with episode 1 and work our way through. We'll go 1, 2, and 3. Solo, Rogue One, 4, 5, and 6, and then 7, 8, 9. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to start off with the first one in this series, A Phantom Menace. So, Star Wars A Phantom Menace, the first episodic movie in the franchise. Now, this movie, when it was coming out, was one of the most highly anticipated films of a generation. We haven't had Star Wars on the biggest screen for so long. And some of us, like me, around my age, had never seen Star Wars on the big screen because we weren't young enough, we weren't born to see the whole original trilogy. I was born in the 90s, so I never got to see that. But when this was coming out, like, we're just like, yes, we're finally getting one on the big screen. And a lot of people were actually quite disappointed by this movie. And one of the craziest things about this movie is that trailer. People would pay to get into the theater just to watch the trailer and then leave. But that's how insanely big this movie was for the time. That's how this was like, you know how big Endgame was? That's what this film was. This film was back then as big as Endgame it was at that time. Like, this was like, oh my god, Star Wars is returning. And a lot of people were disappointed by this movie. And there is a lot of flaws and a lot of criticisms that I do agree with that people have on this film. And some of them that I don't think are particularly too bad and I can live through it. And now one of them is, well, I mean, where do we start? We'll start with the most controversial character in all of Star Wars, realistically, is Jar Jar Binks. You either love him or you hate him. Look, Jar Jar Binks is a gag character that is in here, and it's funny at the start. It's really good at the start. You're kind of vibing with it. You're like, okay, cool. He's this goofy Gungan that is just clumsy. I get it. All right. But after a while, it kind of does tire on you, and you kind of just sitting there like, can we just get rid of this character? Which I think is a good choice that they did in 2 and 3, is put him on the back burner. Get him out of the way. Let's not have him in the story as much anymore. Have him appear here and there, but not as clumsy or anything like that. So throughout this movie, he is kind of like, does get on your nerves a bit. So that is, I understand where people are coming from that. Now, when we talk about the whole political aspect of A Phantom Menace, it's all about Palpatine moving chess pieces. Moving himself into a position where he can seize power of the Republic, where he can get that Chancellor seat. And that's what he does so well. And obviously he's orchestrating the whole Naboo invasion. So we have that side of this story going on. And a lot of people found it a bit slow and a bit boring. And I can see that. That's fair. I can see why you would see that. This movie isn't heavy action-packed with lightsabers or anything like that. It does move at a slower pace, and we kind of do jump from scene to scene to scene really quickly in certain parts, and in certain parts it kind of does drag. So that I totally understand. But I don't mind the political side of Naboo getting invaded. Obviously, Padme going to leave Naboo and then go to Coruscant to try and save her whole planet going on and stop this invasion from the Separatists. So it's really, really cool. And then obviously you have Palpatine who's manipulating that, so he can then force himself in, and obviously he does manipulate it to a point where Padme does call for a no vote of confidence, and now he is going to be the new Chancellor. So it's obviously him moving the pieces. We didn't know at the time that he was Darth Sidious. We didn't know that because I don't recall in the original trilogy them ever referring to him as Palpatine, so we had no real idea. But after you know he is, after you've watched it all, you can see the subtle hints that are in there, like the smiles, the smirks, just him after certain scenes happening, and how he's like that grin of like, huh, I've just manipulated my way to here. So I like that aspect about it. Look, some of the characters, I mean, we obviously got young Obi-Wan here, Padawan Obi-Wan, like his growth as well. Qui-Gon Jinn is just an absolute fantastic character in here. What I love about Qui-Gon Jinn is the way that they take this character that defies the Jedi Council and doesn't abide by their complete rules. And what I mean by that is he is taking the will of the Force upon himself. Like, he is letting the Force guide him. He knows the Force is above everything else. So while the Jedi sit there and they are like, we are not going to let you train Anakin at all, Qui-Gon's like, well, I'm going to train him with you or without you. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm not going to ask for permission here. I'm not going to let you determine whether to train him or not. He is the chosen one. I've never seen this whole Force sensitive, how powerful he is already. And obviously you have the whole midichlorian debate, which, I mean, I still think is the dumbest thing they've ever brought into Star Wars. I wish they didn't, but hey, they did. It is what it is. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it is. And obviously Anakin has the highest midichlorian rate. We know that because he's the chosen one. So he's obviously going to be, he's born from the Force. Like, the Force is literally born within him. Like, he's no father, no nothing, just bam. He's just got a mother. She gave birth to this random kid, like the Virgin Mary. That's what it was. So that's what I love about Qui-Gon, is he doesn't abide by those rules. He's a step above the Jedi Council. He is so far forward thinking than them that he realizes that. And that's why when we get to the final duel, the duel of the fates, which is the duel for Anakin Skywalker between Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon versus Darth Maul. Like, this is the pivotal fight. This fight right here determines whether Anakin goes down the dark side or whether he stays on the light side. And it all is based on Qui-Gon Jinn. Because Qui-Gon Jinn knows that you need compassion, you need love. He's not the person to turn away all that stuff. He realizes that the way that the Council think, way that the Jedi Order thinks, isn't entirely correct. And that's what I love about it. And when he does get killed by Darth Maul in this absolutely insanely great fight, like, it's one of the best lightsaber duels in all of Star Wars. It's so awesome. It's full of narrative, and it's just them piecing away, moving the chess pieces. Darth Maul's absolutely incredible, and you see that. But when Qui-Gon dies, that is the moment where Anakin loses the father that he does need. Qui-Gon is that father figure that Anakin needs, that can bring him back. But once he goes, it's upon Obi-Wan to now train Anakin because of the death of his master. And he says that. He says to Anakin, I will train you. Like, you're gonna become a Jedi. I gave Qui-Gon my word and I'm gonna do it. But as we progress throughout episode 2 and episode 3, we start to understand that relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan. And it's not the father-son bond that Anakin needs. It's not that. It's something else that he requires that we're going to talk about in episode 2 and 3 as we move forward. But that whole battle is perfect, is absolutely fantastic, and Qui-Gon is a pivotal character to the rise and fall of Anakin Skywalker. Like, it is Qui-Gon Jinn who could have changed the whole fate of the universe, and that's why the Duel of Fates is just so freaking awesome. And that whole battle is one of the most important battle sequences in all of Star Wars. So you have great action in here as well. You do have a slow pace, and it does have a bit of a slow burn. There are some cool creatures in here, I must say that. Some of the visual effects, now that they're updated and stuff like that, like, they're kind of just making it worse, which I don't appreciate. I mean, obviously, we're going to see that when we get into episode 4, when we rewatch it and what they did with Jabba the Hutt and stuff like that. I mean, Star Wars has always been about practical effects, and it looks so much better when it's practical. But when you go the CGI route, like rewatching a Jar Jar Binks just looks horrible in this movie. He does look horrible. Look, this movie does have its flaws. It does have a bit of a weaker dialogue structure than the original trilogy. It does suffer in certain scenes with that. The child acting of Anakin Skywalker is not the greatest, but it is doable here. It's possible. Like, yeah, I'm not gonna kill the kid or anything like that, but it is possible. It's good enough. But overall, this movie to me, it's a decent film. Like, it's one that I don't like. I understand why people don't like it, but I do think it gets hated on a bit too much. I really do. I think it is probably one of the more underrated movies in the Star Wars franchise. I don't think it deserves the hate it does get. While it does have its flaws, and I do agree with the flaws that it does have, I still don't think it should be hated the way it is. But that's just my personal opinion. So let me know in the comments below, what did you guys all think of episode 1, A Phantom Menace? I'm so intrigued. Let's get a discussion going. And remember, let's be respectful. Let's just have a chat, have a discussion, not kill each other over our opinions. Not everyone's going to like this movie, and that's fine. I totally agree. We just need to just chill out, just have a good fun debate. Like, we don't have to kill each other for it. But let me know your thoughts. Smash that like button for me and click subscribe as well. And I'll see you guys next video. Until then, stay safe. Peace out.